Hello, welcome to another lesson by Christa Schmeder. Today we're going to be talking about making chip and dip bowls. This is a chip and dip bowl that I saw when I was in Eureka Springs, Arkansas. I saw a potter making these and got some tricks and tips. So we're going to do that today. We're going to start by throwing a small bowl on the mound. So if you've never thrown on the mound before, this will be like a double lesson. So here we go. So once you have it centered and you want to throw a bowl on the mound, what I'm going to do is I'm going to section off a small portion. And if you look up on the internet, there's a bunch of cool videos on different ways potters throw on the mound. And for every thing a potter does, there's a bunch of ways you can do it. It's like 1,000 different ways. That's the cool part about ceramics. So when you open up your bowl or your cup or whatever you're throwing on the mound, it's really important that you kind of are aware of where the bottom actually is, like where you cut it off, so that as you're opening, you don't end up pushing through that, and then you'll have a hole in the bottom of your chip and dip bowl, and that's not fun. Nobody likes that. So now I'm pull the walls up. Now I can start shaping it out, making sure you're compressing the lip. You want to make sure the walls are nice and even. That's one of the ways you can get a lot of cracks in your chip and dip bowls as they're firing or drying, is if you have really, really thin walls or thick walls. There just tends to be an unevenness. Try to get those puppies even. Making sure the inside is nice and smooth, because we're going to trim most of this off. So as long as your walls are even, the inside is the most important shape. Ideally, you would like to stay away from any lips on bowls that tilt out like this, because then when you go to smash it onto the chip and dip bowl, you're going to break this and it's going to make a weird, awkward angle. So try to keep them fairly straight up and down. And then don't tip them in a little bit, because then it's hard to dip the salsa out of it with your chip. Right? Yeah. All right. Giving this one final smooth on the inside. Sure the lip is nice and smooth. So whenever I'm taking anything off the wheel, the step most people forget is they forget to make a groove just under their work. And then when you cut through with a wire, you want to cut through straight. You don't want it to be spinning, because that'll make the platelets smush back up together. Then you can lift it off the wheel. Whenever I'm making chip and dip bowls, if I'm making multiples, it's a lot easier. But if I'm just making one, I'll make a couple different shapes and sizes, just so after I trim them and I figure out what the final shape of the big bowl is going to be, I have a couple options of what that's going to look like and how they're going to attach together. And if you're making a bunch of them, like let's say you're going to try to sell them or give them all as gifts one year for Christmas or whatever, I'll just throw a bunch of different shaped bowls and then try to pick the best one for each chip bowl as I make it. So, but when I'm just making one, I usually like to give myself a couple options. So now I'm going to take these bad boys over to the blow dryer, make sure they're nice and leather hard or cheese hard, and then I'm going to trim the bottoms round and bring them back over to throw the chip bowl and put them together. So while I'm having the minions dry the bowls for me, I'm going to throw the big bowl, but since I know you're limited on time and ready to get on the wheel, we're going to speed this up so you can see what's going on. Once the bowls were dried, I trimmed them round, and I liked this one better mainly because I messed up trimming the other one. So we're going to go with this one and hope it works. So now we're going to attach it to the big bowl we just threw. So now I'm going to attach the two bowls together. If I have any flaws in either bowl, I try to hide those where I attach them. If you have no flaws, you can just pick whichever side you want and go for it. So the main thing that I see people do, or I guess not do, is they don't scratch enough surface area on their small bowl. They'll just give me one of these and be like, yep, that'll hold it up. No, I mean, maybe if you get lucky, perhaps it'll hold it up. But you want to scratch quite a bit of this bowl. Increase the surface area. Lots of little platelets ready to grab on. Scratch, 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 scratch. Copious scratching. Scratch until you think you're bored of it, and then scratch more. Scratch, scratch. If you know any super aggressive chip dippers, scratch 10, 12 extra times for them. If you got kids, 6 or 7 more per kid. Lots of scratching. Now we're going to do the same thing to this bowl. Not going to touch the lip of it, but I'm going to scratch right below. This bowl's still wet, so we have a pseudo leather hard, a little bit wet bowl, and a very wet just thrown bowl. Scratching here really well. All right. Magic. Let's make this happen. Make sure that's nice and wet. I'm going to support the inside of the bowl and match those two spots up. And to make trimming easier and washing and everything else, you're going to make sure these are fairly level. And you're going to push in. Then I like to take either my finger or a sponge. Make sure I get those connected really well. Support it. Push these around to the side. Make sure you get under the bowl, so you want to scoop under. And I'm slightly pushing, I'm pushing forward, but I'm also kind of pushing down just a little bit into the wall. And you'll know when to stop when it doesn't try to peel back out. Once its center of gravity is over the base of this wall, you're going to be good. Then it's just a matter of making it look beautimous. So I like to flare these walls out just a little bit. Make sure these are nice and connected. Now, you have a choice when it comes to where the two bowls connect. You can either not blend them or blend the whole thing. If you try to just blend part of it and then leave the other part with a line, it's just going to look like you messed up. So choose and then stick to it. I like to take a sponge, work out the kinks. This is where the artist part comes out, because anybody can throw these two things once they learn, but then getting them together so that they look nice is a little bit more of a challenge. Some of my students like to make multiple dip cups per chip bowl. There's a couple of issues that you can run into. If you make the bowl too narrow, like this bowl is perfect for just having one dip bowl. But if you were going to do two, you could see that once you push that one in, you're going to have these two weird pockets for chips and this underneath space that's hard to clean out. So if you wanted to have, 2 or 3 different dips on the same bowl, you're going to want to throw more of a platter with a short wall versus a taller bowl. You can also throw little tiny ones of these to have for an individual serving of veggies and dip or hummus or anything like that. But that is the basics. We still have to trim this. It's still going to be trimmed just like a normal bowl. We're going to flip it over. So check out the bowl trimming video if you want to see either a foot ring or a simple bottom. With these, if it rocks at all, you can just throw a shim of clay under the uneven edge like you would a pitcher. Other than that, you got a tasty chip and dip bowl that you can use at parties and have fun. Good luck, everybody.